Welcome to Vital Signs Podcast. My name is William Hatton. I'm the Public Affairs Officer for West Texas VA Healthcare Center. I am joined by Steven Cortez. Thank you so much for joining us today, Steven.
Well, thank you for having me.
We are doing our monthly veteran profile, something that we really enjoy doing around here. And I felt like we kind of put together a list of folks that we would love to sit down and talk, and people suggest different people for us to do. And at one point we wrote your name down. I was like, that would be a good person to sit down and chat with. And so we're excited to finally have you here doing this with us. So thank you so much for coming.
Definitely. Thank you. It was a nice little travel from San Diego.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed it. So glad to be up here in Big Springs and get to see the people that I know that I've been working here for a while.
Sure. Steven works out of our San Angelo clinic, which is recently renamed to the Charles and Joanne Powell VA clinic.
Okay. Do they have the colonel in there now? So I'm assuming that's
I don't want to take away from the name, but I feel like it's going to take some of us a little bit of time to get used to what exactly it is called.
Correct.
But we're happy that has taken place. But yeah, so Steven is an Army veteran, correct?
Correct.
We did a podcast like a month ago or 2 months ago where I thought the guy was a Army veteran, and it turns out he was in Air Force. I wanted to make sure I knew that you were part of the Army. So what years did you serve?
So when I first joined in, I came in at 2008 is when I signed the contract.
Okay.
But they put it down for July 14th, 2009.
Okay.
Was when I actually entered in, went into boot camp. So
right on.
Ended up going to Fort Knox joined in, of course, in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Did my MEPS and all that stuff out there and then shipped off.
Cool. So, I think we often ask, like, everybody's got a different story of what led them to join. What was like some of the big motivators, the big factors that led you to joining the military? Well,
one of the things that I joined for was, one is because I had a family to support.
Okay.
Jobs were thin. I was doing a car lot. I was working as a district manager for the collections department at a car lot. And then of course, 2008, we knew that there was the big crash.
Sure.
So they eventually laid me off. So I was
kind of looking at your options. It just felt like a good avenue.
Yeah, I applied for the VA back in the past, but it was kind of hard to get in. They wanted military experience, medical experience. So I looked into joining the military. I was going to join the Air Force. My dad was an Air Force veteran, Vietnam.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I could do that. Sure. But unfortunately, I was too old. I just barely missed the age limit, which was 28 at the time. So I was 28 when I tried to join, but then when I actually was to come in, I would have been 29. So they said, I didn't meet the cutoff. For
the Air Force.
Correct.
Gotcha. So, but Army said, yeah, sure, we'll take you.
Oh, yeah. It was either Marines or Navy. So I was like, I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the Army because my grandfather was Army.
Okay. So you've got a family history.
Correct.
That kind of, I found like with a lot of people, there's a family history to it. But I think for everybody at a certain point, whether you're 18 or 28, like you're making a decision for yourself, know, and like in the case of having a family, I totally understand that. For me, my dad served in the Army. My grandfather served in the Army as well. And it was like, I didn't think I was good enough for the Air Force. Right. I thought the Air Force was too high class. not to say that they aren't, but yeah, it's kind of funny how each service member kind of ends up where they go.
Right.
You talk to a lot of Marines, they'll tell you the marketing department for the Marine Corps really made a good push for them. So, well, cool. I mean, it sounds like when you went to the recruiter, what did they kind of lead you towards? What kind of jobs were they trying to get you to do?
Well, they were they were looking at, of course, when we first started the process, they asked me what I was interested in. I was looking at doing lab tech at first, where they process, samples, blood samples, stuff like that.
Sure.
Then one of the recruiters was telling me about his experience about a combat medic.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I decided to go that route.
Right on.
So did my ASVAB, scored high enough, which I was 10 years out of school.
Sure.
Maybe a couple years, had about a year of college.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so let me try to do this. And I ended up scoring a 69.
Right on.
Which is pretty, I thought for my age.
Sure. I mean, no, and I joined when I was like 22, 23. And so I felt like kind of like in the same category. You're a little bit older. I was a little bit distance from college. And so like when I took the ASVAB, I was like happy that I did well enough on it that he said I could select pretty much most of the jobs in the little book. And you take that, he handed me a book and said, go home, look at this, tell me what job you want to do. And, I don't know. It's like, I think I settled on public affairs because it sounded cool.
Right.
The other one was counterintelligence. I was like, oh, that sounds like it could be fun. But I don't know. I probably would have been stuck behind a desk or something.
Yeah.
Just like really not happy. But and I think life has a way of leading you where you need to go.
Right.
So you get through basic training. What was school like to become a medic?
It was pretty intense. I mean, when I was doing the ASVAB, I didn't realize I knew that much, a little bit about medical.
Sure.
A little bit, I guess, more than average. So I kind of settled into it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I love to learn, but it was pretty good.
Cool.
I enjoyed it. Then moved out. Once I graduated AIT, got shipped off to Germany.
Right on. All right. Right away, heading overseas, huh?
Yeah, first duty station.
All right. So, what was it like the first minute you stepped off the plane in Germany?
Well, as soon as I stepped off of Germany, I did not plan for the weather. I didn't research it. I did not do anything. Sure. I'm out there with shorts, and then we're saying this is probably in what time frame was it? It was beginning of that's right. It was in November.
Okay.
And then of course I should have known
you're
that.
You're a Texas boy. Yeah. Heading out to Germany.
Right there.
November and Texas could be like 80 degrees.
I was not thinking. So I was
you were cold.
Yeah.
Very cold. Okay.
Lucky enough there was a gift shop up there.
Sure.
I bought me a coat and everything.
Yeah. So what was it like? Who are you embedded with? Who was your unit?
It was the 95th MP battalion.
Okay. So how long were you there in Germany?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, some of the things that you got to encounter while you were there?
Some of the things that I encountered was working closely with the police,
Sure.
the MPs, working at the TMC is what it was, or TMP,
Mm-hmm.
the Troop Medical Clinic, or TMC.
Okay.
That was TMC. So of course doing checking patients in, getting vitals,
Mm-hmm.
drawing blood. So it was fun, but I was only there for a month.
Yeah.
And then deployed.
Okay. Where did you deploy?
First deployment was in Afghanistan.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not Afghanistan, Iraq.
Gotcha. So this is about 2010?
Yeah, 2010. It was 2009, and then it rolled over to 2010. So of course I missed Christmas, but my family wasn't there yet. But so they were still stationed.
You were separated anyway.
Yeah, no matter what.
Yeah.
So, but first deployment, kind of excited, kind of scared, nervous. You got all those emotions going through.
Sure. I mean, I imagine when I arrived at Fort Hood, they told us there's a good chance you're going to Iraq, and we're probably going to go in about 6 months. So that I felt like that was enough time. I can imagine getting to Germany and being like a month there and like, oh, hey, guess what? You're going to Iraq.
Yeah, you go from the freezing cold to at least kind of a little bit warmer weather.
Yeah. So what was your first tour in Iraq like?
It was pretty fun. I mean, of course, we were going through.
So you're still with a military unit.
Correct. Yeah. So we were escorting. We ended up with Tent Mountain.
Okay.
With the Tent Mountain Brigade, and of course the MPs were deployed out there, and we were escorting jingle trucks, supply trucks. End up getting into our first encounter probably about 2 months with them.
Oh wow.
Getting shot at, small arms fire, and then all kinds of different things that happen. Of course, I was driving the commander around. So I'm the medic there, and then we get hit, and then we're sitting there taking small on fire. So we had to call in for
support.
Yeah, for support. I ended up getting a concussion from my first concussion.
Oh wow.
Not my first, I'm sorry. Probably one of the many. That was probably like number 6.
Oh, I see.
6 of 10.
You got a little punch card for each one.
I got so many stories on how I've gotten the concussions. But I've had quite a few.
And I don't know. As a veteran, I think sometimes it's difficult to talk about these kind of things. Your engagement with combat. I think every veteran is going to be different. You're going to kind of like be jovial, joke around about it a little bit. But like, I think in the moment it's probably just like a everyday routine, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. You train
feel
for
it. Your adrenaline is pumping. Your mind is clear. Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of talk to me about some of the other experiences you had in Iraq.
One of the things that I enjoyed was learning about different culture there.
Sure.
Encountering, some of the people, children.
The children are so interesting to me in Iraq because I as a public affairs person, I went around and took pictures and interacted like with different units. And so I was with a different unit every day, and we'd go out and you'd see the children. To me, I'm curious what you think about it, but you could tell if I felt like if the community liked you, the children were out asking for chocolate. Mr. Chocolate.
Chocolate.
If the community didn't like the U.S. forces or didn't like that presence,
it was rocks.
The children, it was either rocks or the children were like hidden away, like tucked away, stayed inside. The Americans are here, everybody could come inside. So like I kind of like would always use that as kind of a gauge. Is that kind of your experience?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, and then when you're going through, first get encountered, and then you're going through that, then your awareness heightens up.
Sure.
So then you have to be, you're kind of stand back, and then you're more cautious as you were when you first encounter them.
Yeah.
So then, but then you start relaxing a little bit more.
Okay.
So, well, at least for my experience.
Yeah. So you ended up doing 2 tours. I assume your second one was in Afghanistan. Is that
correct?
Kind of what you were leaning towards? Yeah.
Kandahar.
Okay. So like very different terrain, environment.
Yeah, there's of course there was the desert where we were at, and then you come back up, and then a year later we go get shipped to Kandahar. Kandahar was a nice experience. Getting mortared just about every day, but it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Mountainous, really, colder, pretty cold.
Yeah.
We're getting once the winter hits.
I think it's interesting that you keep saying it was a good experience. It was a nice experience. And I think while at the same time saying we were being mortared every day.
Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way about my military experience, especially my deployments. It's like, you're in harm's way all the time, but I don't know. There's something about being able to find joy in the environment that you're in, the camaraderie. Like my friends, like they stay with you. And I think that's what makes your experience better. Is that kind of what you experienced?
Yeah, you got the other soldiers, you bond with them.
Sure.
You all, you become brothers, you become sisters, you develop a family.
Yeah.
You end up, once your military experience is over, you get out, discharged, no matter what the case is, you stay in. You always have that relationship with that person, with them, with that group of people.
Well, and I also think just experiencing a trauma like a war and dealing with it, having somebody that just has a relatable experience makes it so much stronger, that connection.
Right.
So you come home from your second deployment.
Yeah.
Where are you fitting in with your unit? Are you thinking about getting out? Are you at a point where you're considering get out? Or are you about to get transferred somewhere else?
We were getting ready, but actually I was going through when I was only in Kandahar for 6 months.
Okay.
Because when I was in Iraq, ended up getting injured, come back over here, go through some, not over here, but back into Germany.
Back in Germany.
Go through some counseling, go through some, tests and treatment, stuff like that. Then I had to end up, because since I was injured, I ended my back worse than what I thought it was. I had to end up changing my MOS a little bit. So I became more of the administrative side.
Oh, okay.
So I was 42 Alpha, which is a PAC clerk. Human resource clerk is what they call it. But so, I enjoyed that while I was down there, but they asked me if I still wanted to go, because when we were going to Kandahar, they said, no, you didn't have, I didn't have to go, but if I wanted to,
I see.
So I went, I wasn't afraid, but I only lasted 6 months because, going full battle rattle, getting mortared, you jump in on the ground, puts more pressure on your back. So I ended up doing 6 months.
Okay.
Then I started, they asked me if I wanted to stay in, but they said some of the doctors were kind of pushing towards the med board.
I see.
Recommending, not pushing. Yeah. Recommending the med board, because my back was so kind of not as good as, about 3 or 4 different surgeries. You
got shook around a little bit.
Yeah. 4 surgeries they were recommending, but I was like, no, that's my back. I'm not going to go through that. So I went ahead and leaned forward with the med board.
I see. I see. So this is about probably 2012, 2013?
Yes, 2012. And, they started the med board process, asked me, hey, where would you like to go? I said, well, I was in Fort Sam. So let me go ahead and go back to Fort Sam, because I'm from, like I said, from Dallas, Fort Worth. So I thought it was, a little bit closer to the family. I could have chose Fort Hood, but I was like, heard some bad things there. So.
Fort Hood's not that bad.
It's not that bad, but hey,
I spent my entire time there aside from tours in Iraq. But,
right.
Yeah.
And it's best. And the reason why I chose Fort Hood, I'm sorry, Fort Sam is because they are a medical unit.
Sure. Yeah,
so you have the specialists there. Not saying that Fort Hood doesn't, but you got all the.
It's all right there.
It's all right there. I'm just right across the street. My battalion is right from the hospital, from Brooks Army.
So you're going through the med board process, kind of finding your way out of the military. What was it like for you when you first got out of the military?
Well, when I first got out of the military, I was already transitioning. So the military actually prepped me and helped me transition from, to prepare for civilian life. So build up a little bit of knowledge, and you start developing it on your own, living off post. That kind of helps, going out, meeting people. Making friends. Of course, I had family in San Antonio. My dad's, my uncle, my aunts and stuff. So I already had a support group there.
That's good.
So that actually it was a smooth transition. Right. Now trying to find employment was a little bit a little bit difficult. But since they made these incentives to hire veterans, for companies to hire veterans, I started. It's
starting to work out for you a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted to become a state trooper. Unfortunately, I couldn't pass the PT test.
Yeah.
So I ended up going with, into the medical field, and then I found the VA. Because I when I wanted to go into the VA, and then this actually helped me prepare a lot better. Yeah. So which I really enjoyed. Once I got hired on into the VA, I started there in Fort Worth.
Okay.
One with the goal to help veterans, to help improve, relationships between veterans and the VA, to show them that it's not the old VA.
Yeah.
That was my goal. and I always keep that goal in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a lot of changes throughout the VA.
That's awesome. That's
so,
awesome.
And it doesn't just take one. I mean, it could start with one person, but I wish I could say I was that one person, but I wasn't.
No, I mean, I think so you now serve as an administrative officer,
Correct.
Which is kind of like a catch-all for the clinic. You're like the face of the clinic in a sense.
We do a lot of operations. So we oversee operations, administrative operations stuff.
A veteran comes in, he's got an issue. Likely, you're going to be interacting with that veteran.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like calming him down, explaining the situation, trying to get him the care that he wants or she wants.
Help them maneuver around some of the red tape.
Sure. And so, do you lean on your experience as a veteran when you interact with other veterans?
I do.
Knowledge of it, your experience of it.
I do. And then also talking when a veteran's talking to another veteran and they can relate.
Yeah.
They share stories. They know that that person is going to try to do what they can to help them. And when staff see what, some of the things that I do, they then start developing ways that we got a great staff there in San Angelo.
Yeah, no, I agree.
They are willing to go above and beyond and for the veterans. Yes.
Yeah. I've been so surprised by the amount of connection a staff member like myself and like you as a veteran, the connection, similarities, the bond that you have with another veteran.
Right.
I think when you look at World War II Navy veteran, one of the first stories I did when I came here, him talking about his experiences, the fears that he felt, the bonding, brotherhood, basic training, like all of those things you start talking about, I'm like, I felt all of those things. I know those things like you know them. And that's an occurrence, something that happened 70 years before. Like, I think, it definitely helps. I think, and I assume for you, same for me, same from a lot of the employees that I interact with that are veterans. I think there's a sense of like wanting to help a fellow veteran. And I mean, is that kind of your experience when you're interacting with other veterans?
Yes. And that's what I try to share. And one of the best advice I've ever received was that we see our patients at the worst.
Yeah.
So it's how you approach it. Approach the veteran, approach the situation. Some of them just need to be, have that engagement.
Sure. Just want to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it just takes patience. I know we are always there. Medical, it's always like not in a rush, but we want to make sure that we're doing everything right. But sometimes we get complacent.
Yeah.
But
so one of the, as we kind of nearing the end, one of the things that I love asking other veterans, and this is going to catch you off guard. You have to sit and think about it. So I'll fill the airtime with stories of my own. But what was one of the funniest experiences you had while your time in the service?
Time in the service was meeting my wife.
And it's funny because like I've got like probably a handful of stories that I could just pull from. So it sounds like you've got a story.
I already have
a story on tap ready to go, which is good.
Yeah, one of the funniest things is this: when we came back from deployment, I ain't gonna lie, I was going through a divorce.
Oh, okay.
I had a slump.
Yeah.
I was, let's just say, distant.
And that is a common occurrence for a lot of service members. Deployment, it's a hard time for sure.
Mm-hmm. So,
but this gets funny.
Yeah. I got divorced. Okay. I was going through a divorce, got divorced.
Yeah.
I ended up meeting my wife in Germany before my next deployment.
Okay.
And what was funny about it is that I've never used an app to meet anyone. And so I was going to meet this girl, set up a date. Of course, no show.
Okay.
I end up, I'm leaving the bar. leaving the club with some friends, and I meet my wife walking down the street.
Okay.
So I start following her. And not stalking her, but following her. I said, ma'am,
I need to get to know this woman.
But the reason why I was following her, not because she's beautiful, not just because of her smile and her personality, but because she had her shirt that was tucked in and the back wasn't untucked. It was untucked. So it was just flying.
Flapping
so I had to tell her, hey, ma'am, your shirt's untucked. You're showing your lower back.
I see.
So after that, she started, we started talking, and then we developed a relationship. There was one time that I took her to the barracks. Of course, we're not supposed to have anybody stay the night, but we did. And we enjoyed the sun coming up. Because I was on the second floor, I had the roof right there by my room. So we sat on the roof and watched the sun come up. Something I didn't plan for it to be romantic, but it just happened.
Turned out to be that way.
Yeah. So ever since then, we have our up and downs, but we end up, resolving our issues and moving forward.
Awesome.
And
that's awesome.
And try to, but she is my biggest supporter.
Well, and I think, I think soldiers experience a lot of ups and downs when it comes to marriage and life and family and all those things. And in the end, it's always a good support when you have somebody in your corner, and it sounds like that's what that.
Yeah, and it's good that you have a family support unit or channel to somebody to talk to. Once you start talking about some of the stories and some of the engagement, it becomes easier to open up to other people.
Yeah.
So, which is great. And, I've enjoyed the 6 years that we've been married. We just had our anniversary a couple weeks ago.
Awesome. So, well, thank you so much for sharing that and all of your experiences. Is there anything else about your time in service that you felt like would be fun to tell or needed to be told? Their course was challenges, but I enjoyed it. I mean, you get to learn new people. You get to learn about different cultures. You get to learn a diversity of how different people engage, how they interact. So it also plants you for the real world. Yeah. You're not sheltered. That is really good work ethic. You learn a really good work ethic. Yeah, no, the military is good for that.
Yeah.
If anything,
you'll come out and you'll learn how to want to make sure that you're doing your job, to make sure you're serving those that you're supposed to be serving correctly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a good conversation. I always love doing these veteran profiles because it's fun. As a veteran, just to even get to sit and talk with another veteran about their experience, what they went through. And so we really appreciate you. This has been Vital Signs Podcast. We're going to continue to put these out. Every 15th of the month is when we release our veteran profiles, but we're also trying to do more educational experiences. So you can go back and listen to our April 1st, we released an episode on your PACT, what a PACT team is. It's good information right there. If you have any questions about how your healthcare works, it's a good resource for that. So, we really appreciate you watching or listening, and we're gonna bring you back another episode there at the 1st of May. So keep an eye out for that. But for now, thank you again, Steven, for joining us. I'm William, and this has been Vital Signs Podcast. See you next time.
And James Carrillo, I challenge you to come and do the next one.
Oh, we got a challenge.
AOD, shout out.
Okay, well, we'll have to get with James then and get that coordinated. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you next time.